What's going on, college baseball fans? Welcome to another episode where this week we're going to talk about the top performers, guys who really caught my attention in weekend 3 in college baseball. Now, obviously, there was a ton of college baseball action all across the nation, but these are the guys that really caught my attention. So we're going to go through a pitcher and a hitter from each conference, and then a newcomer, which of course, again, is a transfer or a freshman, just someone who's new to the conference or new to the school, because some guys transferred within the conference. But either way, let's get right into it. Now, starting things off, the guy from the SEC who really caught my attention on the mound was South Carolina's Josh Gunther. He brought them a big-time performance when the Gamecocks really needed it against Clemson in this insane in-state rivalry. He went 7 shutout, only surrendering 3 hits and 1 walk, while racking up 10 strikeouts. And again, this is one of those rivalry series that they're at each other's necks, but especially this year with so much going on with South Carolina, I think Gunther was a really big bright spot for them. Now, on the hitter side of things, a guy who really caught my attention was Georgia's Daniel Jackson. More specifically, in their game against Oakland to start the series, he had 2 home runs in the same inning, which is never easily done. Hitting 1 home run in an inning is pretty difficult. He ended the weekend going 7 for 14 with 4 home runs and 8 RBIs, being a key piece of their offense in their 4-game sweep over Oakland. For my newcomer, I'm going with Tristan Becerra. He's a Clemson transfer who's now at Ole Miss, and I feel like all he's done since putting on the Rebel uniform has been mash baseballs. The Rebels were down the Bruce Bolt Classic down in Houston, and I gotta say, it was really fun watching Tristan Becerra hit home runs at a big league park. It's fun watching them do it down at Swayze, don't get me wrong, but there's just something different when they're doing it at a big league field. Now, for the vibe of the weekend, we're going back to Columbia, South Carolina, because their series with Clemson, it was one where they play 1 at Columbia, 1 in Segra Park, which is a little neutral site location, and then 1 at Clemson at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. And on Friday night, they had a rain delay, and in this rain delay, of course, fans are not going to leave the game. They're going to stay. They're going to go back to the tailgate. Rain delay for fans just means, okay, we can drink a little bit more. And while drinking a little bit more, we had a South Carolina fan jumping off of what appeared to be a Ford F-150. I don't recall the exact truck, but he's jumping onto a table, which is always just electric stuff. The table withheld the damage. Might want to talk to this kid about where he got the table from, because nothing against the kid, just I didn't take any physics classes in high school, but it looked like, a body type that could mash a table. So this one's staying up. That's just impressive for whatever brand that is. They should get some love. Now, moving along to the ACC, the pitching staff that really stood out to me was just Wake Forest. They were incredible all weekend in their sweep over Loyola Marymount. But the main pitcher that really stood out to me was Chris Lavanis, not to get confused with Chris Lemonis. I get those two mixed up all the time. Very different people. But Chris Lavanis on the mound against Loyola Marymount went 6 shutout innings, giving up 0 hits and 0 walks, racking up 14 punch-outs on the day. This kid's got an absolutely electric fastball, and he pairs a sharp slider and a good curveball off of it as well. So again, just a really impressive guy to watch operate on the mound. We didn't really see too much of his off-speeds because he was getting the job done with the fastball, but again, just a really fun outing to watch. Now, for my hitter in the ACC, I got to go with Cider Cannon out of Duke, which is just a phenomenal name. It's really fun to say. I'll take a second so you can try it. How was it? Did you enjoy it? I had fun. But either way, this kid was really good all weekend in their wins over Princeton. They went 3-1 in their series against Princeton, 4-game set. Hard to win 4 games. But Cider was a big piece of that. He went 6 for 9 with 6 runs scored, while mashing 4 home runs and a double and picking up 8 RBI on the weekend. Now, for my newcomer in the ACC, I'm going with the Cal transfer to Georgia Tech and Jaron Advincula. He went 6 for 13 on the weekend in their sweep of Northwestern with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs. And this kid's just got a super silky smooth swing. And honestly, when looking at picking the hitter of the weekend, I could have probably picked just about anyone on this Georgia Tech lineup, top to bottom. There are no breaks for pitchers. My biggest piece of advice for opposing pitchers when facing Georgia Tech is, maybe don't make the travel roster that weekend, because they're going to destroy your ERA. Now, for my vibe of the weekend, I'm going with Clemson taking the Palmetto series against South Carolina. This was a really exciting series for a number of reasons, but one guy who really stood out to me was Clemson's starting pitcher on Saturday, Michael Sharman. He threw a 78-pitch complete game, which That's completely unheard of in today's modern age of baseball, especially college baseball. We get a lot of guys who will throw a lot of pitches, and don't get me wrong, we'll still see complete games, but not at this magnitude, not in this little amount of pitches. But again, just a really strong showing from Clemson in the final 2 games, which I think bodes well for the ACC. Now, hopping over to the Big 12, jumping around some conferences, for our pitcher of the week, I got to go with Ethan Lund from Oklahoma State. He went 6 shutout against Sam Houston, where he only surrendered 3 hits. He didn't walk anyone. His command was absolutely dialed in, and he racked up 14 strikeouts over those 6 innings pitched, which is a ludicrous number. That means only 4 of the outs he got were not via the strikeout. So again, just a really impressive performance out of Ethan. And then on the hitter side of things, we're going to jump to Ethan's teammate Colin Ritchie, who in Saturday's game against Sam Houston was 3 for 4 with 3 home runs and 7 RBIs. This dude went full Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 one-man army, saying, hey, I'll do it myself. Don't worry, guys. You can be here, you can support me, but I'm going to be mashing home runs every time I step up there. So really fun weekend. He's been really hot for Oklahoma State. Definitely a guy you're going to want to keep your eye out for. And when he hits home runs at Stillwater, they aren't just kind of going over the fence. These are big league home runs too. So really cool to see those. Now for my newcomer, I'm going with the Delphi Division II transfer to West Virginia, Dawson Montesa. I don't know why people are surprised that guys who could absolutely ball at the Division II level can continue to ball at the Division I level. That feels silly to me. Obviously they can. But this weekend, he went 7 innings pitched, only surrendering 4 hits and 1 walk, 1 earned run, while racking up 11 strikeouts against Kennesaw State. And this dude has just looked super polished ever since stepping on the mound. So really fun to watch him pitch. Now for the vibe of the weekend, I didn't quite capture a picture of this, but during the war on I-4 between USF and UCF, in UCF's outfield, there was a gentleman in the bottom of the 3rd inning grilling in the outfield, which not super uncommon. His grill was located in the bed of his truck, feels like a bit of a fire hazard, but this guy was in like a full suit and tie, just genuine business attire. He looked like he either got out of his first job interview or first communion, one or the other. But again, if he's handling the grill, I feel safe. This is a guy who looks like he knows what he's doing. He's dressed for the job he wants, not the job he has, and that's something we should all aspire for. Now, heading on over to the Sunbelt, which isn't officially a Power 5 conference, but I feel like it definitely should be, especially after this season when we're going to watch the Sunbelt beat up on a lot of people. But starting things off, our pitcher this week got to be Marshall's Kenyon Collins. He went 8.1 innings in their win over Butler, while only surrendering 4 hits and 2 walks, giving up 1 earned run, racking up a program record 14 strikeouts. He again was one of those guys who his command was dialed in. He looked really crisp, and again, it didn't look like it was that much of a struggle for him. Like, it just looked easy. And when you see pitchers on the mound where it looks easy and breezy for him, that's a guy who's going to have a lot of success throughout the season. Hitter-wise, I got to go with Bryson Trammell from Georgia Southern. He set a school record with 4 doubles in one afternoon, finishing with 6 RBIs on the day in their win over USC Upstate, which Georgia Southern's gotten off to a bit of a rocky start this season, so definitely a bright spot for them, definitely someone you're going to want to keep your eye on. Now for my newcomer of the weekend, I'm going with Coastal Carolina's Trace Mazan. He's a transfer from Weatherford College. And down at the Bruce Bowl Classic, where they played Texas, UTSA, and Ole Miss, he went 5 for 13 with 3 doubles and 4 RBIs. Now, this is really tough competition. It's not an easy weekend at all when you got to face Texas's Ruger Riojas. And again, Trace just absolutely balled out. So definitely someone who I think will have a lot of success in the Sun Belt this season. For my vibe of the weekend, I'm going with Coastal beating Ole Miss. I feel like for Coastal, it was a little bit rockier of a start to the weekend in terms of, running into the buzzsaw that is the Texas Longhorns this year and then taking on a very good UTSA program. But they bounced back really strong against Ole Miss. So that was something I was really happy to see because, teams could very easily in that situation just go, okay, look, we're going to get these 9 innings over with. We're going to go home, regroup, forget about it. They said, hey, look, we're going to finish, we're going to fight to end on a positive note, and the Chanticleers definitely did. Heading on over to the Big Ten, the pitcher that really stood out to me was Michigan Wolverines' Tate Carey, who went 6 shutout innings, only surrendering 5 hits and 2 walks, racking up 7 punch-outs in their 9-0 win over the University of San Diego. San Diego came out and beat them on Friday, so it was really cool to see this bounce-back win, and Tate was a massive piece of that for the Wolverines. On the hitter side of things, a guy who really caught my attention was Aiden Espinoza. He's a pinch hitter for UCLA in their game against Mississippi State, where he collected a pinch hit 2-run triple in extra innings to give them the 8-5 lead over Mississippi State, and that ended up being the difference maker. There was an RBI brought in, the bases were loaded when he came in to pinch hit. There was a wild pitch that scored a run, so, the double only accounted for 2 of the RBIs, but I feel like those should count for like 3 RBIs. Like, I don't understand how that works, but either way, really awesome to see that out of Aiden Espinoza, especially when it's like, okay, look, if you're going to beat our lineup, we're going to put in the guys off the bench, and they're going to beat you. So UCLA, they have an insane amount of depth. Now for our newcomer, we're sticking with the UCLA Bruins, and we're going with Texas transfer Will Gasparino. The outfielder has just been on a tear ever since joining the Bruins. This weekend was no different. He went 5 for 12 with 4 home runs. And again, he's just been on an insanely hot start this season. He has 14 hits. 10 of them have been home runs. 1 of them was a double and 1 was a triple. So he's only hit 2 singles. So again, he's not wasting anybody's time. He's like, hey, look, we're going to make something happen, and we're going to make something cool happen as well. And that's what the fans deserve. So shout out to Will for growing the game of college baseball. Now for my vibe of the weekend, I'm going with Penn State taking on Illinois State. And if I gave you 4 guesses where these 2 teams would be playing at the start of the year without looking at the schedule, I'm sure you probably would not say the Bahamas, but that's where these games were taking place. And this was the first ever college baseball game and college baseball series played on Bahamas soil, which I think is just really cool. It's a good way to grow the game. And what I really loved about this series was the team was doing a lot of stuff with the local community, going out to the local baseball fields, just inspiring kids, kind of showing them, hey, this is what next level baseball looks like. And I think that's really cool. Personally, if I were a player, I think I'd miss all 3 games. I would have been staying at the team hotel, going down the water slides at the beautiful beaches. But again, that's just me. I was a different type of ball player. Now that's all we have for this weekend recap. Thank you, of course, as always, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm just trying to grow content and coverage of college baseball over here on the YouTube side of things. So if there's things you want to see, if you have any recommendations on how to get this better, or just what you're interested in, feel free to comment below. But I thank you guys as always for tuning in. Thank you to Jax Campbell in advance for the comment. I always look forward to those. We'll be back Thursday for a weekend preview episode to get ready for another exciting weekend in college baseball.